In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces killed 55 people in Gaza and wounded over 230 others in less than 12 hours. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reaffirmed the availability of the executive branch to act as mediator in the peace processes in Colombia in the face of a possible coup d'etat against the government of Gustavo Petro. And in Spain, the Court of Madrid decided to reopen the investigation into espionage against Charles Puigdemont's lawyer, Gonzalo Boye, using the Israeli software Pegasus. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, during the last 12 hours, Israel has killed 55 people in Gaza and wounded more than 230. The Zionist army has not stopped its heavy artillery and aerial bombardment on southern Gaza, where 10 members of the same family were killed. In turn, survivors struggled to feel safe anywhere in the region, as 6 other Palestinians were murdered in the center of the Strip. The wounded are now taking shelter in the remains of the Nasser hospital, while doctors reportedly have no supplies to treat their serious injuries. The Euro-Mediterranean Observatory for Human Rights confirms that more than 400,000 Palestinians living in the north of Gaza could die of hunger and thirst, denouncing the serious situation in the refugee camps. Jabalia, Beit Hanun and Beit Lahaya are the areas of refuge for displaced persons most besieged by the famine imposed by the occupation. Constant shelling by the occupying forces has prevented the entry of humanitarian aid for the past 10 days. Hundreds of Palestinians faced with the difficult situation to which they are subjected, especially children and the elderly, decided to go to a collection center on Monday, which hours later was bombed by the genocidal army, killing 10 people. And in Lebanon, since early Tuesday morning, Hezbollah reports heavy fighting against Israeli infantry troops in the southern border. The resistance is keeping at bay the Zionist troops that have made several attempts to break into the territory through the Rabtalin area. Israeli artillery is supporting the genocidal troops by shelling residential areas of Al-Taipei and Deir Zion, but combat on the ground is more complex. Hezbollah issued a statement confirming that in the midst of their struggle in defense of the Palestinian cause and in support of their honorable resistance, they are confronting the Zionist forces. Israeli media shared this Tuesday that at least 34 soldiers lost their lives in the fighting against Hezbollah. And in the United States, the Pentagon confirmed on Tuesday that components for an advanced anti-missile system they sent to Israel have started to arrive. The system uses a combination of radar interceptors to thwart short, medium, and intermediate range ballistic missiles and can intercept them inside and outside Earth's atmosphere during their final stage of flight. In this context, the U.S. government institution declared that the structure would be fully operational in the near future. Furthermore, the entity expressed that they will continue sending military personnel to aid the Zionist regime forces, whose aggressions against several countries in the Middle East are currently escalating the violence in the region. The UN Security Council unanimously endorsed on Monday the continuation of the United Nations interim force in Lebanon, UNIFIL. This decision represents a major setback for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is demanding the withdrawal of the force. Israel received a barrage of worldwide criticism when it became known that its occupying army forces had wounded several members of UNIFIL. The UN peacekeeping chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix explained that the Council had expressed unanimous support for the mission in Lebanon. The Zionist premier accuses them of cooperating with the Lebanese resistance, but human rights activists point to him for wanting to eliminate any witness to the genocide perpetrated by his forces.
That this was a decision that was very carefully considered based on a number of elements and criteria. Of course, safety and security of the peacekeepers is a paramount priority, but there are a number of other elements, and one of them is the responsibility that we have and UNIFIL has in regard to the mandate that was given to it by the Security Council. It's a Security Council.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela has issued an official communique rejecting the latest statements made by the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who, allied with the extreme far-right sectors of the country's opposition, discredited the results of the July 28th elections and the will of the Venezuelan people in an attempt to interfere with the nation's sovereignty. In the statement, the Venezuelan government strongly rejects the remarks made by the U.S. Secretary of State and calls him a charlatan at the service of infamous lobbyists stuck in a false and monotonous narrative against the will of the Venezuelan people. The communique stresses that the victory of President Nicolás Maduro Moros last July 28 was not only a demonstration of the popular support backing the Bolivarian revolution, but also an exercise of dignity and exemplary rejection of the aggressions that, from the U.S. government, have been applied for more than 10 years against Venezuela. The document also denounces the obsessive policy of the Monroe Doctrine, as well as the neo-colonial imperial conduct of the government of the United States of America, are the basis of the support to fascist group in the constant aggressions against the Venezuelan institutionality, and closes by reinforcing that these actions will continue to be faced through the full exercise of the revolutionary democracy enshrined in the Venezuelan Constitution. And also in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro reaffirmed the availability of the executive branch to act as mediator in the peace processes in Colombia against the government of Gustavo Petro. During his program called Con Maduro Más, the Venezuelan head of state recalled when Venezuela intervened in the peace negotiations in Colombia under the government of Juan Manuel Santos. The Venezuelan president reiterated that Venezuela will always be willing to support and accompany the dialogue processes in Colombia, assuring that the welfare of Colombia is the welfare of Venezuela.
We received the request from President Petro to help in the peace, and we are helping, always with prudence. I do not practice microphone diplomacy, nor does the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill practice microphone diplomacy. You will never see a statement from me or the Foreign Minister or a Venezuelan official on the internal politics of Colombia. So I am evaluating this proposal, and if we assume it, and the Colombian society, the Colombian government agrees to be mediator so that there is no coup d'etat in Colombia, we would do it with the greatest prudence, the greatest loft, and the greatest tranquility. What I can tell you is Caracas has its doors open. Caracas, the cradle of Bolivar, the creator of Colombia, the founder of Colombia, the liberator of Colombia. Caracas, the cradle of Bolivar, is open for there to be a dialogue in due time, so that there is no coup d'etat, so that the constitution is not violated. Because if it goes badly for Colombia, it goes badly for Venezuela. And if it goes well for Colombia, it goes well for the both of us. Because we are brothers, so we are evaluating. And as soon as we evaluate the proposal made to me, which is very complete, very serious, very professional, we will make an official statement.
The Venezuelan president condemned the recent statements made by the former president of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos, in which he stated that the criminal sanctions policy of the United States on Venezuela is very soft.
Yo lamento mucho que él haya tomado el peor camino contra Venezuela.
I regret very much that he has taken the worst path against Venezuela, that he is the architect of the destruction of the historical relation between Colombia and Venezuela that existed in the past. Brother peoples, Juan Manuel Santos in Colombia is not worth half a peso. He is a failed politician. He is a man who can't go out to the streets. Nobody wants him. When he does this, it is because, look, there is a lobby that pays a lot of money and they call him. There is a lot of money on Venezuela to try to harm our country, to hurt the historical relations between Venezuela and Colombia that we have rebuilt between President Petro and me, and now they are flourishing, buoyant the economic, political, cultural, diplomatic, educational relations between Venezuela and Colombia. Nobody is going to damage them. Juan Manuel Santos, you are not worth half a peso in the Colombian politics, so I don't even ignore you, Juan Manuel Santos.
In Ecuador, 14 of the 16 pre-candidates aspiring to the presidency in the 2025 elections have already secured their names on the ballot. The National Electoral Council affirmed on Monday that the voting schedule is moving forward without any inconvenience. Among those confirmed are the current president Daniel Noboa, who took office in November 2023 after the early departure of Guillermo Lasso and now seeks re-election for a full 4-year term. There was also confirmed the candidacy of Luisa Gonzalez and her partner Dio Boja, who are running for an electoral alliance between the Citizens' Revolution Movement, led by former President Rafael Correa, and the Total Renovation Movement. And the President of Bolivia, Luis Arce, made changes to the National Police General Staff and appointed General Augusto Russo Sandoval as the force's new General Commander. The ceremony took place at the Casa Grande del Pueblo in La Paz, where the Minister of Interior, Eduardo del Castillo, thanked the directors and commanders of the different units for their work, inviting the newly appointed officials to always put forth their best efforts in the performance of their functions. He reminded that there are no fixed positions and that the officers must strive day by day to achieve good results. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button, activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found your break, don't go away. Welcome back. The commander of the United States Southern Command, Laura Richardson, said on Monday that the U.S. relationship with Argentina are strong, iron. Commander Richardson also affirmed that the trip to China by President Javier Milei does not generate a problem because it is a sovereign decision. During this period, Argentina sought to strengthen its ties with the United States, adopting economic and diplomatic policies that favor U.S. interests. This approach included Argentina's participation in U.S.-led peacekeeping missions and the adoption of neoliberal economic reforms that were welcomed by the U.S. government. In Argentina, the Bicameral Commission for the Oversight of Intelligence Agencies and Activities will have a subcommission to investigate the illegal integrations to which many of the people detained during the protests against the base law were subjected. The decision was taken unanimously last week by the members of this body, chaired by the radical Martin Lustó, National Senator of Argentina. In the last few days, victims of the agent's actions have testified, and as of this Tuesday, deputies who were sprayed with a powerful pepper spray will give their testimony. The Peruvian Public Ministry reiterated their request for 20 years in prison against former President Alejandro Toledo in the interoceanic case. The former president is accused of receiving millions of dollars from a Brazilian company in exchange for allowing them to use the tunnels of the Southern Interoceanic Highway during his administration. Prosecutor Jose Domingo Perez ratified that the guilt of the former president is proven. He recalled that Toledo accepted that the late Israeli businessman Joseph Maiman, the main beneficiary of the bribe, paid the mortgage of his home. Toledo also faces charges for the Odebrecht and Ecoteva cases. In Mexico, during her Tuesday morning press conference, the President Claudia Sheinbaum stated in regards to the past elections in Venezuela her will to respect the principle of free self-determination of peoples as proclaimed in the Mexican Constitution.
We have a very clear definition of our foreign policy in the Constitution, which is the self-determination of the peoples. At first, there was a call from the three countries after the election in Venezuela for the results of the election to be made public. From now on, we are going to remain, let us say, impartial in this regard. So, Colombia has a position. Brazil has a position. The United States has its own position. And our position is the constitutional one, the self-determination of the peoples.
In Mexico, the plenary of the Chamber of Deputies approved in general the amendment to the General Law of Electoral Institutions and Procedures in order to issue the secondary laws of the reform to the federal judiciary. The reform was approved by 336 votes in favor by the Morena, PT, and PVEM parties and 123 votes against by the PRI, PAN, and MC parties. The reform defines the preparation of the election, the call for elections, nomination of candidates, election day, the counting, allocation of positions and qualification of the election and the declaration of validity, as well as the electoral campaigns with emphasis on citizen participation. And the report Data That Hurts Us, Networks That Save Us was presented. The study was presented by the Mesoamerican Initiative of Women Human Rights Defenders and reveals that 200 activists have been murdered since 2012. The extensive report also records more than 35,000 aggressions. The study states that 8,926 women defenders and 953 organizations have been the target of attacks. The author of the initiative affirms that this violence has a collective impact as it sends intimidating messages to those who dare to challenge the patriarchal order and fight for social justice. In Spain, the Court of Madrid decided to reopen the investigation into espionage against Charles Puigdemont's lawyer Gonzalo Boye using the Israeli software Pegasus. The court claims there is reason enough to continue and overturns the dismissal issued by an examining judge. According to the capital's court, Mr. Boye's case was not investigated properly. Citizens Lab records 18 hacking attempts on the lawyer's cell phone between January and May 2020. The group also proved that on October 30th of the same year, a successful hack took place just after one of its defendants was arrested. Gonzalo Boye claimed that at the time that the Spanish authorities legitimized this form of espionage. Also in Spain, Congress debates a law reform that would prevent those convicted of terrorism from running for office if they have not repented or apologized. The debate was prompted by the Popular Party. The proposal implies reforming the organic law of the general electoral regime. The proposal comes after the absolute majority of the Popular Party rejected the law on the exchange of criminal records in the European Union, which will allow the early release of ETA prisoners. The party members insist on the need to protect, recognize, and honor the memory of the victims. In Ethiopia, Addis Ababa City Sanitation Management Agency reported significant advances in waste recycling by this year. The agency estimated that out of the around 587,000 tons of solid waste generated in Addis Ababa, about 67,510 tons were recycled, which is an upsurge from previous years. Furthermore, Deputy Director General of the agency, Ato Mulat, underscored the positive impact of recycling as it produced approximately 1.1 billion birr in revenue, creating job opportunities for over 800 citizens. The Ethiopian government has been pursuing recycling projects nationwide to curb pollution triggered by Koshe garbage dump, among other places. A scrap collector described how they recycle in the capital.
Plastics are recycled into products like plates and jars, while metals are sent to factories, melted down, and recycled into building steel. This area is called Mina Leshtera because you can find everything here.
In Germany, Berlin Zoo visitors will from Wednesday be able to catch their first glimpse of two rabbit-sized panda cubs born almost 8 weeks ago. The 2.5-kilogram baby bears will take turns to greet an admiring public in the zoo's panda garden for about an hour a day from 1:30 p.m. local time. Since their birth on August 22nd, the still unnamed cubs have been in the care of their mother, Meng Men, and an expert team including specialists from China's Chengdu Panda Base. Zoo Director Andreas Nierim said that for the first time, visitors will be able to observe the growing up of the little pandas. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.